We're counting down to Men at Work's Dr. Heckle and Mr. Jive. They say that song was inspired by author Robert Louis Stevenson and by the comedian who's raised more money for a charitable organization than any other entertainer in history, more than $300 million. Details coming up.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
Just about everybody wants to be a recording star, right? Even some people who are world famous in other lines of work. Let's read a page from the AT40 book of I Didn't Know He Ever Hit the Charts. There's a comedian and movie star who hit number 12 back in 1956 singing this song.
You're rock-a-bye baby with a Dixie melody.
You absolutely know who that is, even if you don't recognize his voice. He was born 58 years ago, and his name then was Joseph Levitch. He began his comedy career teamed with a singer named Dean Martin. In the early 50s, they starred on TV in the Colgate Comedy Hour. With Dean Martin and by himself, he's made classic film comedies like Scared Stiff, The Nutty Professor, and Cinderfella. In France, he's a hero. In the U.S., he's seen most often in TV reruns of his old movies and in new movies like The King of Comedy, and once a year as the host of the Muscular Dystrophy Telethon. He's one of the most recognizable personalities in America. But he's not that well known as the man who recorded a number 12 hit of Rock-a-Bye Your Baby with a Dixie Melody back in 1956. He's, of course, Jerry Lewis, a celebrity who you don't think of as a singer, but who has hit the chart as one of his many lifetime accomplishments. The multi-talented Jerry Lewis, as the countdown rolls on.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
Now we're up to the current hit by Men at Work, Dr. Heckle and Mr. Jive. They say that this song was inspired by two people, a Scottish author and an American comedian. The author is the man who wrote classic adventure novels like Kidnapped and Treasure Island, the 19th century author Robert Louis Stevenson. His most bizarre story of all is the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's the classic tale of the genteel scientist who transformed himself into a sadistic brute. Well, that story inspired Colin Hay of Men at Work to write a song, but he wanted to add a lighter touch, so he also borrowed from a movie that was a parody of the Jekyll and Hyde story. The film was about a bumbling college professor who transforms himself into a cool, debonair type. The movie, The Nutty Professor. It starred the famous comedian who's best known for his work with a specific charitable organization. He's helped raise more money for this organization than any other entertainer has for any other organization. This year alone, he helped raise more than $30 million to fight muscular dystrophy. And in 18 years of his Labor Day telethon, it comes to a total of $300 million. Of course, he's comedian, actor, filmmaker, and humanitarian Jerry Lewis. The current hit by Men at Work, including the video version of the song, was inspired by Robert Louis Stevenson's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Jerry Lewis's The Nutty Professor. At number 28 this week, here's Dr. Heckle and Mr. Jive, Men at Work, as the countdown continues.
Hits from coast to coast.